Guns and politics. Our great friend Greg Pruitt joining us now from the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance. Greg, how are you?
Hey, good morning, Kevin. How are you doing?
Not bad. So when we're taking a look at the Idaho legislature, a body that you've gone toe-to-toe with for years, will it be pro-gun this time or perhaps maybe not?
Oh, man. The early word that we're getting is that this battle to restore the Second Amendment and the battle to expand gun rights in Idaho is going to be just that. It's going to be another battle. Some of the excuses that come out of these guys' mouths, I can't fathom. And it's extremely frustrating. And in an election year, I guess some of them are willing to take that risk that they're going to fight against us as opposed to, fighting for the people, which is what they all campaigned on.
Indeed. So let's talk a little bit about some of the major Second Amendment issues facing the legislature and the conservative gun rights supporters, representatives, senators that you're supporting.
Yeah, so this year, as it was last year, our big push is to increase our self-defense laws, to strengthen our self-defense laws. And so we're primarily looking at stand your ground and castle doctrine, which we have some forms of in the state of Idaho, but we'd really like to solidify them and make them a lot stronger than what they currently are. And Representative Christy Zito, who you had on yesterday, she was carrying the stand your ground bill in the House, and she has some co-sponsors already, about a dozen or so in the House, and so we are seeing some momentum on pushing that bill forward. And we have another bill that we're trying to clean up some of the language with constitutional carry and actually expand that even more than what it is currently. And Senator Tony Potts is working with Representative Carrie Hanks to push that bill as well. So those are the kind of the two bills that we're focused on. Our big primary one is our self-defense laws here in Idaho.
Our great friend Greg Pruitt joining us here. So Idaho is a gun-friendly state. We have conceal and carry without a permit. Why do we need additional, powers or rights for the citizens?
Yeah, and so the bill that passed back in 2016 that, we fought for years, and you know that, Kevin. One of the issues that we had with it is that they made it apply only to Idaho residents. Out of the 13 states that have constitutional carry, only 3 of us do this ridiculous residency requirement. And it's actually made it really difficult for law enforcement to determine, well, who is and who isn't a resident. And what they actually don't realize is that non-residents, so people visiting our state, your family, your friends, people that live in neighboring towns, can actually carry their firearms in the state of Idaho except for inside city limits. And so this bill is really simple. It's meant to really clear it up for law enforcement so that, when they pull somebody over from out of state, they don't go, well, are you inside of city limits? Are you outside of city limits? We just say, look, Second Amendment, constitutional carry, that applies to everybody as long as you're not a prohibited person. You're not a convicted felon. You're not someone who's been adjudicated mentally ill and can't have a firearm. So it's a really simple bill and should be relatively straightforward. But surprisingly, this is the bill we are getting a lot of pushback on already. And these guys just don't want to protect the rights of all citizens. They want to create basically a second class, if you will, to where Idahoans, are better than everyone else. And in some respects, we obviously are because we're Idahoans. But to us, that's not right. We don't treat people differently because they don't necessarily live in our state.
Well, then you have other people, though, saying, what about the criminals and those sorts of nefarious individuals? You've heard that argument for years.
Yeah, and number one, the bill doesn't authorize them to carry firearms. But number two, they do it anyway. They don't even care. That's why they're criminals, right? They don't follow the And so,
right.
This puts everybody on equal ground. And we have seen in the other states that do not have a residency requirement that there's not any issues. Nobody can show us where there's any issue. And as you know, the state of Vermont has never had a permit system. Anybody in the country can go to Vermont and carry without a permit. And how in the world is it that Idaho and Wyoming, two of the quote-unquote Wild West cowboy states, are the ones restricting firearms the most. It's just baffling.
It is. Our great friend Greg Pruitt joining us. You're listening to KIDO Talk Radio. So let's talk about the big shebang coming up in February. We got tickets to give away. We already have people asking about this at the Nampa Civic Center. You're going to have a Second Amendment forum with the gubernatorial candidates. Can you give us a little background, and what are you hoping to determine and to cover here?
Yeah, so we do an annual rally at the Capitol, Kevin, and as you know, you went there and spoke to our crowd on the big one, actually, the big crowd that we had back in 2016. And this year we decided to do something different because we have a new governor coming in, and I think a lot of people are fed up with Governor Otter when it comes to gun rights because the guy's just not a leader. He won't push these gun rights forward, and was very hesitant to even sign constitutional carry. And so we thought, okay, how do we prevent that from happening again, or at least attempt to prevent that from happening again? Well, let's hold a forum on the candidates who are running for governor and see if we can't dig deeper into their mindset when it comes to gun rights, because whether people like it or not, gun rights is one of the most, if not the most important issue to most Idahoans, and that includes most Democrats. You know, if you mess with people's gun rights in Idaho, you're setting yourself up for failure at the ballot box. And so this is an opportunity for us, not just to say, you know, do you believe in the Second Amendment? Because everybody does that. Even every single person that runs for Republican or Democrat office says that they believe in the Second Amendment. This is an opportunity for us to really get down deep into what they think about specific issues such as assault weapon bans, high-capacity magazine bans, expanding constitutional carry, all of these issues. We can really ask a lot more deeper questions.
Greg Pruitt joining us here. Kevin Miller in the morning at KIDO Talk Radio. So when we go to dealing with getting the sausage made, getting it through committee, you've been very frustrated throughout the past years. Do you believe you'll have that same frustration, or do you think you have the momentum going? It seems the only thing that the leadership wants to pass is usually a gas tax or something else, or repealing or vetoing a grocery tax at the end of the session, so change doesn't happen. As someone who has made constitutional concealed carry a law here in the Gem State, how is this playing out early into the session?
You know, early into the session, it's actually been rather slow in a way, because normally we've already had our bills printed and we're trying to submit them into the committees. But because everybody's trying to campaign, all of the bills are taking much longer to get back to the representatives. I believe Representative Hanks just got the one yesterday for constitutional carry expansion, and we still don't have the Stand Your Ground bill back from legislative services. So everything's much slower right now. Now, they have promised the legislators, especially the Liberty legislators, that their bills will be heard this year. And to my knowledge, none of them have submitted any of their bills yet. And so we're not sure if they're going to hold that up. But it's an election year, and there's a lot of challengers to a lot of these chairmen and a lot of these incumbents. And so I guess that's a risk, they're going to have to determine is, do they, their desire to kill our gun bills outweigh the risk that they want to take at the ballot box. Yeah. We just don't know yet, Kevin. We'll certainly keep you guys informed as we submit these bills and whether or not they get heard. And at the very least, that's what the citizens want. They want these bills to be heard in the committee so we can have good, open debate about it, and there's nothing going on behind closed doors.
Greg Pruitt, if people want more information about your gubernatorial forum, what can they do?
The easiest thing to do is to go on our website and reach out to us. We have about 80 tickets left. They are going to be gone, I would imagine, here in the next week and a half or so, and then that's it. It is free, 100% free, but they can go to idahosaa.org on our website and get a hold of us and get the tickets from there. And once they're gone, they're gone, and unfortunately not much we can do about it. The place holds 630 people, and it will be sold out. So.
Well, we can't wait to see you. We can't wait to be a part of it. And we always appreciate you, going back to the days when you and all your friends were outside of Boise Gun Company. Eric Makrosh brought you in. You've come a long way, my friend, and the movement has come a long way. So we thank you for your commitment. It's so much easier said than done, but because of folks like you, Idaho's a much better place.
Yeah, well, we appreciate all the support you've given us, and man, I'm sure glad that we weren't out having to do that at last year during Snowpocalypse, man. we would have done it. We would have done it, but man, I'm glad we didn't have to the whole cow. So,
Greg, you take care.
Thanks again, Kevin.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, bye.
Bye-bye. Let's go to John, who's been very patient with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you today?
Not bad. A little feisty is this, but that's what helps get everybody rolling. And you?
I'm doing well. Being on this side of the terra firma is good for me. So. I just wanted to make a comment. If President Trump was a true leader, I would encourage him to tell Congress and the Senate he doesn't want any reformation on temporary spending, that he'll just shut the government down so they can actually make some decisions and do their job. Because 80% of the government doesn't shut down anyways, from what I understand. So they should just shut it down and force the Congress and the Senate to make decisions that are going to benefit the country.
Yeah, I'm wondering how many Republicans would go along with that.
Probably not very many, because most Republicans aren't real Republicans anymore. But, I would really wish this president would stand up and be a leader and just say, no, don't bring me any temporary spending bills. Get to work and get it done. If the people are suffering, it's on you, not me. You need to do your job.
Boy, that would be a true Harry Truman-like moment, wouldn't it not? I don't think we've had that in quite some time in any of our politicians.
No, we haven't, but that's what we need. And part of the reason everyone voted for Trump is because he wants to get things done. And the only way to get things done is hold Congress and the Senate accountable and say, I don't want to hear any of this news that I'm doing it. You guys are doing it. And if he said this and, the country heard that, I think the majority of the people that voted for him would stand up and applaud.
John, we appreciate you listening. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Coming up next, the doctor says the president could have a heart attack within 3 to 5 years. We'll share that. Get your reaction next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. And blessed to be a part of your day. Sean Hannity is so awesome every afternoon. When we're taking a look at, just some of the stuff that he has continued to cover, the Sarah Carter story that he has had on and on and on is just simply amazing. And now it looks like the folks at the federal government are actually looking at covering this when we're talking about the FISA memo. Now, again, listen to me closely. A multi-page memo is making the rounds through Congress, and it reportedly shows apparent surveillance abuses by the U.S. government. Representative Ron DeSantis, a member of the House Oversight Committee, told our friends, Fox and Friends, that the document needs to be released to the American public. Now, you've heard several Congress folks on Sean's show and on our show here at KIDO Talk Radio, your home for Fox News in the Treasure Valley, going on about this, and the media continues to ignore this. So when people say, well, why didn't Trump talk to the FBI? Well, the FBI was in on it with Obama, right? The FBI was in on it with Obama. Here's Representative DeSantis.
Straightforward memo. And there were a couple times as I'm reading this thing where I'm just like shaking my head. You've got to be kidding me. I can't believe they did that. So I think it's something that is really significant. I think that the American people need to see it. There's growing support in the House to make this public so that the American people can see. And here's the thing. The memo's done in such a way where you can easily make it public. There aren't, it's classified top secret, but there aren't sources and methods here. So I don't think that would be a problem. Let's get that out there so the American people can see how this whole collusion thing was going on during the campaign.
There we have it at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, this FISA memo, where we have the Russian dossier, we have everything else. And look, I listen to Sean's show like you do, and I'm glad that he has those folks on because everything else gets just so confusing with, the FBI, the dossier, this, that, and the other. It's just crazy what's going on. But think about this, the corruption at the highest levels. when you take a look at what they're accusing the president of, it just doesn't seem to correlate to any independent. Where's the independent prosecutor for Obama and the crew? Now, coming up next, we talked a little yesterday about Dr. Sanjay Gupta, who hasn't diagnosed the president, that he has heart disease. You'll hear that comments coming up next. But first, time for traffic.
And they have continued to go up despite the fact that he's been on medications. So the president has heart disease. Those numbers qualify him for having heart disease, and it clearly needs a plan to try and prevent some sort of heart problem down the road.
We can't get this truck.
So there we have it. They have this issue involving the president with the heart disease and everything going on and on and on. It is just irresponsible for these folks to continue to perpetrate this mystery about the president. Okay, he's not healthy. He's not this. Look, Apple is investing billions in America. You have Melaleuca and other companies that are, reinvesting in the United States of America, that are giving folks bonuses. Now, I don't know how many people would not be appreciative of a $1,000 bonus. Would you? I'm telling you, that would come in handy for most folks. And Melaleuca's doing that. You know, for however many years you work at Melaleuca, what are you getting? You're getting $100. Some people are doing really well with that. And God bless them, best to them. That's what happens when you get the government off people's backs. And instead of being objective, and look, the president is not perfect. At 580-5436, 580-KIDO. He's not a perfect guy. But look at the billions coming back into the economy. Do you remember during the Obama administration where we would have the phony unemployment numbers, where we'd have the stock market? The stock market is huge. Now, I've been accused in the past, either internally or externally, of being a negative Nelly. Look, the press seems to be a negative Nelly on this. And they don't understand him. They can't manipulate him, so they're seeking to take him out. First, let's see, he was not fit for office. Then, cognitively, he's not fit for office. And now he's going to have a heart attack. Of course, his doctor said this.
He says what he's got to say, and he speaks his mind. And I've found no reason whatsoever to think that the president has. Yeah, I've found no reason whatsoever to think that the president has any issues whatsoever with his thought process.
Exactly.
His overall health is excellent. Are there a few things he could do to make himself a little healthier with the diet and exercise? Absolutely. And he's tracking that, I'm tracking that, and we're working on that. But overall, he has very, very good health, excellent health.
Of course, we say that all the time. Could we do more? Yes, we could do more, and hopefully the president will. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. So two issues here. Do you believe the whole shenanigans when people say, oh, the president, oh, he's not healthy? Of course he's healthy, about as healthy as everybody else, right? Number one. Number two, this idea that we're going to sit around and not give credit to what's going on. I mean, this is just wonderful what we're talking about here. People can retire. People can do things. And yet the press decides to be overly negative. Some other KIDO Talk Radio news that we're covering right now. Some big hospital groups all over the country are so fed up with high medicine prices and drug shortages. There should never be any drug shortages in America, should they? That apparently these super groups are now creating their own company to make cheaper generic drugs, according to our own Mike Cantor at KIDO Talk Radio.
Intermountain Health, Ascension, Trinity Health, and SSM Health are teaming up with the VA system to produce medication. Those 5 groups represent more than 450 hospitals. Their goal is to counter the consolidation of generic drug makers over the past 10 years. Fewer drug companies have led to shortages and skyrocketing prices for generics. Generic medications can be made very cheaply, so this move will give the hospitals the chance to save hundreds of millions of dollars every year. Other hospital and health groups are expected to join the effort over time. Mike Cantor, Fox News.
Thank you, Mike. KIDO Talk Radio, Kevin Miller in the morning. It's going to be a tough call, though. Big Pharma versus Big Medicine. We'll talk about that next with Dr. Tommy Ahlquist. He's running for governor. We'll get his thoughts on the legislature, whether or not we should have full transparent disclosure of what people make and how much and everything else, or we should just let them all run wild and free. Those stories and more next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good morning.
And blessed to be a part of your day. We're joined by Dr. Tommy Ahlquist, running for governor. Dr. Ahlquist, good to have you with us, sir.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you?
Not bad. You're always hitting the trail. You're always working, always campaigning. How is life on the trail?
Oh, great. We ended up late last night in Sugar City and spent the night in Idaho Falls, and we're already out on the road already this morning. So going very, very well, and just a lot of enthusiasm and great people out there. It's a part of this whole journey that I like the most, so it's been great.
What are you hearing from folks? Because when you're doing this listening tour, when you're speaking back and forth, you like to hear what they have to say. In fact, I've talked to many people that have spoken to you one-on-one, and they always come away impressed that you listen.
Yeah, I always said, Kevin, when I was in the ER for all those years, and when I arrived here in Boise, we had 12 docs in our group, and when I left, there were over 40. And when new docs would come in to the ER, you would have that sit down with them and say, you better learn how to listen or you're not going to be able to do this, because, part of the art there was just listening and actually finding out what was going on. I've loved that part of my medical career and in business too. You don't go do really hard and challenging things without listening and bringing people together and figuring out how to get something done. It's the same thing now. I had a very interesting meeting the other day with somebody, and they were kind of coming after me and said, why haven't you come in? And I would have told you all the problems in Idaho, and I know them all, and I've been around. And I said, well, that's just not how I roll. I like to not just listen to what your opinion is of what's going on, but I like to listen to the people that are actually in the trenches, find out what they think's going on, and have more of that grassroots feel to how I want to govern and lead. And that's what we've done. Yesterday we went hard all day long, and we talk about the same things, Kevin, everywhere we go. There is still health care premiums and costs is the first thing that most people talk about. There's desperation in people's eyes and in their voice when they talk about what are we going to do on all levels of health care. Education is still something that everyone is talking about. It's top of the mind for everyone. I think the new tax changes, the new tax plan, there's some excitement now. You meet with small business owners like we do so much on the road. They're excited. I love hearing the other side saying that that's not going to make a difference in the lives of hardworking families. Of course, that money for these LLCs, for these small businesses, is getting down to their employees and going to get down to their employees. And so that's what I'm hearing, Kevin, and it's great just to listen, and then more exciting to talk about how we're going to actually build a better Idaho.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. The tremendous growth that is happening here in the Treasure Valley, Dr. Ahlquist, and throughout the state. And again, I'm catching up with you. You were in the Magic Valley saying that you have Treasure Valley-itis. That's okay with us, but how do we manage the growth here and across the state and make Idaho more business-friendly?
Yeah, I've said that somewhat to be funny, and the fact that just that, so many of our people, a large portion of our population lives in the Treasure Valley, and my only point by saying that is, of course, that's kind of the economic center and the driver. It's where the capital is. It's where all the a lot of the big decisions are made in downtown Boise. We just have to remember that when you go down that list of counties and cities and school districts around Idaho, we are a very rural state. And any policies that we implement in Idaho need to be Idaho policies. They need to remember the rural nature of our state and not just look at things through the lens of just what's going to happen in the Treasure Valley, because it is we have one state that is amazing in values and heritage, and the problems are the same. So all I'm saying by saying that is we really need to look at Idaho through the lenses of let's list Idaho, all of Idaho, and remember rural Idaho as we do that. Getting back to your question on growth, what a great problem to have. I mean, in having businesses doing well, my approach will be this. We need to take care of our current businesses and help them, and that is making sure that tax policy and business policy mandates, regulations make it as favorable as possible to do business here. We still have a wage problem, Kevin. You'll hear we still have a third of Idahoans living in poverty. So as much as this growth is great for all of us, we need to make sure it translates into higher paying jobs for our people. And then we need to keep up on infrastructure. Nothing will stifle and pull back an economy more, which then pulls back education and all the great things that we can do in the future, than not paying attention to infrastructure. So this election, Kevin, is about the future. It's not about the past. I know that people love talking about in the past, we need to give a nod to the heritage, the good values we have, but with the acceleration in technology and a global economy and a modern economy, this election is about who can take Idaho to the future. And that's what I love talking about out on the road.
Dr. Tommy Ahlquist with us, Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. Getting back to the medical profession, you know, we take a look at it from most of our perspective, which is that of a patient. But what's it like as a doctor dealing with folks that are sick and they're battling the insurance companies to make sure they get their treatment? What impact does that have on the physician, the caregiver?
Frustration and fatigue. I always tell people, always say, well, what was it like being a doctor? In fact, just this week, Kevin, I have a lot of young students that call me and ask my opinion on should I go into medicine, should I go into healthcare? It's so frustrating. And I think I always shock them because I immediately say absolutely. There is nothing that I've done in my life that's been more special or almost sacred than interacting with a patient in their time of greatest need, understanding them and helping them and treating them and helping them heal. That's an amazing experience that I will always cherish. But the business of medicine, right? Watching how federal fee schedules and policies have taken us away from a primary care centric delivery model to a hospital centric delivery model. Pharmaceutical companies being completely, working around everything from either party that's passed and really hurting the American people, the pharmaceutical industry. And you look at big business in medicine. Big business has affected the way medicine is delivered to patients, and it's confusing for patients. It's confusing for healthcare providers. Last week, I had a focus group with a group of docs one night back in Boise, and we sat around a table. These guys have been around forever providing care, and there's just frustration and fatigue. The whole system is fatigued because in that system, when you're trying to do your best, trying to deliver care to patients, and it's just not working, that takes away some of that job satisfaction that should be there as you care and heal patients.
We go to the phones. Tom has a question for Dr. Ahlquist at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning. Well, thank you for taking my call. I'm going to pose a question I've posed to other candidates, and it's this, is that I believe the Constitution allows us to own property. And I feel I've got a couple houses here in Boise, one I live in and one I rent out. And I paid $1,300 more last year than I did the year previous in property taxes. People believe that, oh, look, the house values are going up. I say, well, that's not good for me because I don't plan on moving. All I do is pay more and more taxes. And I feel like even after I paid off my house, I don't really own my house because I keep paying thousands and thousands of dollars every year in property tax. Would you be in favor? Now, I'm all for a usage tax, sales tax to run the state and so forth, or usage tax, gas tax, whatever, because that's based on usage. That's scalable. But would you be in favor of a state statute amendment that says basically that you get to own your property? Pick up the tax someplace else, because I feel like when I'm old and I'm ready to retire, my taxes are going to keep going up, and I could be quite possibly taxed out of the house that I raised my kids in. I don't think it's right to pay taxes forever on my house.
Tom, that's a great question. And so here's what I would say. First of all, philosophically, after spending a year digging into our government, our state government tax, we need to start treating taxes and investing those dollars instead of just spending them. I think there's an insatiable appetite to spend our money, and they spend it differently than we do. And we need to look at those dollars as how are we investing in our future and actually change the paradigm of what they do with our tax dollars. It's been eye-opening to me to have conversations with people that should know better, talking about my tax dollars. And I agree with you. I pay a lot of taxes. How are they being invested for the future of Idaho is a big deal to me. Secondly, there's the three-legged stool of sales tax, property tax, and income tax. I believe it is time in Idaho to step back and actually do a deep dive with data, which we never do in this state. We never do this and say, okay, let's bring in some experts, let's look around us, and let's see what is the flattest and absolutely fairest way across the board. Now, you're going to have to balance that with infrastructure and needs. I mean, that's where we started, Kevin, is how are you going to pay for all this infrastructure needs and education. So you're always going to have this balance of how do we pay for it and how do we tax. But when is the last time in Idaho you've heard anyone talking about a tax strategy with vision? Where do we want to go? What's the best way to take care of our people? with data, and Kevin was looking at, okay, what does one small tweak do downstream to our people? That never happens. What happens in these legislative sessions is a bill either comes out of a drawer or back into a drawer based on some backroom relationship. The session ends. We Band-Aid, we slice and dice our tax policy, and then we get what we get as Idaho people. It's time to stop that and treat those dollars like they're investment dollars, and let's be very, very smart about how we tax our people to keep it as flat and as fair as we can so that families and businesses can thrive and survive.
Tom, we appreciate the phone call. Jeremy in Meridian for Dr. Ahlquist at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Jeremy.
Good morning. How are you guys doing?
I'm great. Dr. Ahlquist is always working. He's always rolling. So what can we do for you, sir?
Outstanding. I was just curious, reading about the policy change in Kentucky with Medicaid, kind of gets me excited, if this is successful, if we'd be willing to do something, similar in Idaho just to stop so much fraud and maybe help people make better decisions so they can, not so much be as much of a burden to society and reward them for good behavior, like working or maybe paying a very small premium when they come in. I see a lot of patients, unfortunately, with Medicaid that, will roll in an Escalade or a Lexus, and it's kind of a slap in the face that I'm paying for their health insurance. And it just makes me sad that there might not be as much oversight as there could be.
Jeremy, I hope you've had a chance to come to one of our meet or greets or hear what we've been saying about healthcare for over a year now. These guys, these politicians, these career politicians have been talking about the wrong things forever. And it's time that we stop. If you come listen to us, the first thing we talk about, and we have been for a year, is we need to reform Medicaid and bring personal accountability back in, where there is just a little bit of incentive to watch and guard those dollars so that they stretch farther. We're going to threaten the very fabric of that safety net by saying that it's for everyone and stretching it as far as we are, and never, ever requiring personal accountability. We'll absolutely do that. Second thing we'll do is we'll manage those Medicaid dollars. And there's a couple of proposals that are coming out there that will be in our current legislature that scare me to death because it's going about it completely wrong. We absolutely need to reform Medicaid. It'll be one of the first things we do, because if we do that, so much pricing and so much of the system is dependent on that one thing. I love what they're doing there. It's been done in other states. We don't even talk about it in Idaho. I've been talking about it for a year. Let's do it. Let's do it as soon as we get in.
I got to be honest, you just gave me goosebumps. So I'd love to attend one of the forums and, and give some input, because it could just, it's rewarding people for good behavior. And like you said, holding accountability and making responsible decisions with our taxpayers' dollars so we're not wasting.
Jeremy, thank you. I'm sorry, Dr. Ahlquist, go ahead.
Just if I got another minute, Kevin, I'll tell you why this is important. I'm going to give you a very specific example. I was in a nice little meeting with some folks that their whole business depends on Medicaid dollars, and they kind of got after me and said, "Hey, we know you want to reform Medicaid and change it." And these people, this company takes care of the most disabled, the most needy people in our community. And I asked them, "What's happened to your funding over the last 10 years?" And they said, "Well, it's gone down." And I said, "What's happened to Medicaid spending in our state in those last 10 years?" It looks like a skyrocket, the graph does. We're spending more money, but it's actually not hitting the people that were actually intended to be covered by Medicaid. That's what we need to start talking about, is how do we fix the system, bring costs down to make medical care affordable, and put Medicaid in its proper place with accountability. If we do that, watch this whole system change, and watch the state of Idaho show the rest of the United States of America, here's how you solve a problem in a conservative way.
Jeremy, thank you. We've got more calls, but Dr. Ahlquist, you've got to run. We would love to have you back in studio, and I know you're on the road, but you always have an open invitation, sir.
Well, thank you so much, Kevin, and have a great day. Appreciate all that you do.
Appreciate you, sir. Take care. All right, Dr. Tommy Ahlquist joining us. As you said, he's moved on. He's doing some town halls and such, but we will continue to take your calls on this. And let's go to Barbara.
As you said, he's moved
Marson.
on.
Well, we'll get back to that. A little audio. This is a live program. Anyway, remember, keep it here for all the coverage of the campaign and the legislature. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Rolling right along here. Kevin Miller in the morning here. Your reaction to Dr. Ahlquist. Let's go to Barbara in Marsing, who's been very patient. Barbara, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller.
Hey, Kevin. I called in because when you first were talking about the booming economy, and I'm not disagreeing that it is doing great guns for a lot of people, but I got my first check for January, and my withholding has gone up by $244 a month, and that's going to hurt me.
Well, that's not good. There goes our narrative.
Yeah. My friend in Nevada, I checked with her, and she lost over $300. What I am is I am a single working granny, so no dependents at home, and we're just in the, hammer 'em to the wall group.
Boy. Well, what would you like to say on that, Barbara? I guess so much for the booming economy here.
This month I'm fine because I got some holiday pay for working New Year's Day, but from here on out, it's going to be hard. And you're talking about $1,000 bonus, that'd be great, but I'm losing quite a bit more than $1,000 now with more withholding. And I don't get the $1,000 bonus either.
Well, I guess, and again, I'm not trying to be insensitive, but like all of us, I guess we're going to have to work more.
Right.
Barbara, anything else? What would you like to say, though?
I'm just wondering if I'm the only one that's experiencing this. I mean, everybody who's working, got their first paycheck for this, new year.
I know my paycheck goes down every year. Don't know how that works.
We can always work on performance, Kevin.
So true, and that would explain why it goes down, Barbara. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
What? Traffic and weather together at KIDO. Let's go to Jim in Star with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Jim.
Morning, Kate Miller. Hey, I know that Tommy Alquist listens to your show, so I hope he's still listening in his travels right now. I want to know what his stance is on this sanctuary city that Boise has become and the disaster that it's causing. And speaking of ladies like Barbara, I feel terrible for her because, she's a grandma, she's working hard, and she's getting more pulled out of her check to pay for people who are coming into our state, into our neighborhoods that aren't doing anything and they don't have any skills. And I know I've been keeping up with you about, you just go to the Ada County or Canyon County websites and you can see a bunch of these people being arrested for multiple things, including rape and burglary and hit and run. And it's just not right, Kevin. It's not right. And if Tommy's for the, bringing all these Syrians in and different people that aren't going to assimilate, I say he lost my vote. Goodbye. But
we don't know that. We don't know that. And here's the other thing that's interesting. And I think he was a little overwhelmed at the response that he's gotten, which is good for his campaign. But it shows you, and you've been with this show from the beginning, how this show continues to grow, where people just have found it. They call in. They know they have a friendly voice to go back and forth. I think he was a little overwhelmed by the amount of questions he was getting.
Yeah, he probably was.
I know I was.
Speaking of your show, that new app that you guys have, anybody that, and I'm not being paid, and Kevin didn't tell me to say this, anybody that has a smartphone, you have to get that app. That app is awesome, and it's very interactive with everything about the station, too, which I really dig it. I'm super excited to have it, so thank you very much.
Well, we appreciate that.
That's going to be
Go ahead, Jim.
Oh, I just had to give you props for that because sometimes, you download an app and it really doesn't meet your expectations and it doesn't do what it should do. But this one's really cool.
Well, I'm glad it has your seal of approval.
Yeah, you can give me $5 later for that, okay?
See you at the Dairy Queen.
Yes, hammer them. Hammer them about the sanctuary city because I'm over it.
Thank you, Jim.
See ya.
Coming up next, James Hurst and Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.